Hi, welcome to Gene Rants. I've been doing a lot of traveling, virtual traveling on the internet in these vlogs, the last, I don't know, few vlogs maybe. And today we'll be traveling again. This time we're going to Switzerland. Now, the reason we're going to Switzerland is, well, I've been critical. The last couple of vlogs, every so often, I've been critical of President Trump. As I've said numerous times, I try to be fair. I'm not a MAGA person. I voted for Trump knowing what I know today. I would still vote for him given what I imagine would have been the alternative if Kamala Harris were president today. So don't regret my vote at all. But I'm not a sycophant. I'm not one of these people who just I'm not one of these people. I don't have TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, so I don't condemn everything that he does. But I'm not a diehard MAGA person who praises everything he does. But I'll be praising him today. I've been critical. Today I'm going to be praising him. And you're going to see why as we go to Switzerland. Now, what do you think of when you think of Switzerland? Well, you think of skiing, right? You think of the Alps and beautiful countryside, Swiss chocolate, right? And Swiss cheese. For me, by the way, the holes are the best part of Swiss cheese for me. So those are the things you think of. But Switzerland is becoming known for something else, and this is where the praise of Donald Trump comes in. And what Switzerland is increasingly becoming, if not famous for, at least known for, and this is true of Sweden too, but Switzerland, riots. You would not think of riots in a place like Switzerland, but they've been peaceful when was the last time the Swiss were ever fought and had a war? Over 500 years ago. They are very peaceful people. They stayed neutral during World War II. That's what you think of Switzerland as. We think of it as a quiet, peaceful, beautiful country. But that is changing, as I just said. They're becoming known for riots. Why? Because of unrestricted immigration, which is where the praise of Trump comes in, because Trump has, what you're going to see in a moment in a couple of videos is what I am sure we would be seeing in this country if Kamala Harris were president, because you would have what's the estimate, 20 million unlawful aliens coming in under Biden, so 4 more years, or God help us, 8 more years of Kamala Harris, and then you're talking 40 million, 60 million. You're going to see Switzerland is a small country, not a large population. If you let a bunch of immigrants in it, well, the point is, if they were immigrating, if they were accepting people from, well, it's funny. Brief, side trip to England. England is having a problem too with their Muslims. Now they were unrestricted from these countries that have and that's what's happening in Switzerland too. Countries that don't have a Western lifestyle, they don't have a Western philosophy, and the idea that you're going to just import these people en masse into a Western country and they're going to change. Well, that's obviously not true, and it's funny because, not funny, but not ha-ha funny, but distressing funny. In London, in England, when England was in the European Union, and then there was what they call the Schengen agreement, which is basically if you enter any EU country from outside the European Union, if you're an unlawful alien, if Germany just lets anybody in, though once in, they can go to there are essentially no borders anywhere in the European Union. Now that's saying Hungary is in the European Union, and they say, well, we're not going to follow that, and they're preventing immigration. Good for them. But England, they were complaining about Polish plumbers coming in. In other words, people from Baltic countries coming in and competing for, working for less than native Englishmen. That was a complaint then, but now you don't. Well, you're going to. This could be another vlog. You're going to. They're having. Hasn't quite gotten to riots yet, but you're seeing a lot of demonstrations. I don't want to go in England. These problems that are being caused by this unrestricted immigration. In Sweden, you're seeing there are all these gangs, these ethnic gangs, again from these third world countries, or these what I would call them barely civilized, not Western civilized countries, and they're coming into the country, and you're seeing bombings now in Sweden, and now getting to Switzerland, we're seeing riots. So we're going to. So that's where the praise of Trump comes in. Trump, he shut the border virtually, as I understand, zero now, the last month, of unlawful aliens coming into the country, and he's getting unlawful aliens that are already here. They're rounding them up. No help from Democrats, these sanctuary cities, but he's rounding them up, getting them out, and according to what I read just the other day, 1.6 million unlawful aliens have self-deported. They didn't wait to get picked up and thrown out by Donald Trump. And one of the reasons is because if we have to pick you up and throw you out, then you have no path to coming into the country legally. So if you self-deport, then you can try maybe get into the country legally. So all praise to Trump. Now I want to show you now a couple videos what is happening in Switzerland and what could have been our fate and is going to be the fate of these other, well, France, England, and well, mainly those two countries, because they refuse to, well, if you're wondering why they're called, recognizing a Palestinian state and all this, because they are scared to death of these Muslim immigrants from Arab countries that are violent. They're afraid of violence, and they're basically subjugating. There is, I have to throw in I guess, factoid, unfortunate fact. I forget which. It's in Germany. Germany, okay. Wir schaffen das. Angela Merkel, the former, as she's sometimes known, the second worst chancellor in German history. You can kind of guess who the worst chancellor was. AH are his initials. But anyways, unrestricted immigration. And now there's one city, I can't remember the name of it. It starts with an S, but anyway, it's a city where the school, you have the school cafeterias, and all of the food for school children is halal food. Halal food. Now, you didn't see that for halal food is very similar to kosher food. The difference being that there's no prohibition again in Muslim culture, Islam, of mixing dairy and meat. And actually, Judaism either. It's not in the Torah. It's really it's a custom that was just, where it comes from is that the Bible, the Old Testament says that thou shalt not, and it's not one of the 10 Commandments, but one of the kosher rules is not to boil a kid. And don't go try this at home. Kid means a baby goat, okay? A baby goat. It doesn't mean a real kid. But anyway, you wouldn't want to do this with well, don't boil a baby goat in its mother's milk. That's the literal law. So you're not going to, according to the Torah, you can mix dairy and meat, just not a goat. Man, and when was the last time anybody had goat, right? Goat with don't boil it in its mother's milk. So somehow it became no dairy with meat, but you don't have that in Islam. But what you do have is prohibition, no pork. Which, and I've been to Germany, and there's pork everywhere. The sausages, everything. But anyway, so in this school now, it's all halal, no pork. And it's not like an option that you can, if you're a Muslim kid and there's a special meal for you, it's the other way around, that a non-Muslim, a Christian German kid in one of these schools in this town cannot, no pork for lunch, no bacon, no sausages, nothing. That's so that basically they've submitted to Islam. They are now following the Islamic dietary laws, and they never did that for Jews, right? There was no school in Germany that I'm aware of, I've never read a story about this, where all the food is kosher. And well, so there you go. So now I've dawdled enough, so I've been teasing these videos. So now we'll go to the videos in Switzerland. I'm going to show you two of them. This is, well, let's put up the headline first. Second nights of riots in Switzerland after Congolese teen dies, right-wing politician targeted in lynching attack. Quiet and prosperous Switzerland also now has its migrant riots to contend with. In the Swiss city of Lausanne, riots have now broken out for a second night, so 2 nights of riots, after a 17-year-old Congolese youth died during a police chase. During the first night of unrest, a right-wing politician was targeted by a large group of youths who nearly lynched him. On August 24th, 2025, at around 4 o'clock a.m. in the Prelaz area of Lausanne, Switzerland, Marvin, a suspected migrant, was driving a stolen, okay, get that? A stolen electric scooter and died when he crashed into a wall while being pursued by police. Riots subsequently broke out in the Prelaz area. Pay attention now. This was a kid who he stole an electric bike, number one. He was being pursued by the police. The police didn't shoot him, didn't beat him, no violence. He himself, fleeing the police on a stolen electric bike, crashed into a wall and killed himself. The police did not kill him. They were merely chasing him as they were supposed to do. Police officers, right, chasing a criminal, a guy on a stolen bike. But we saw what happened, a riot. Why? Because the kid was Congolese, all right, from an African country. And so these minority immigrants, they all rioted. That's all they cared about, was that he died. And it harkens back to, as I recall, something similar happening in France. Police chasing some kid, a criminal, and riots in Paris, burning of cars and all sorts of stuff. So now, the second part. During riots in Switzerland, a mob recognized a local SVP politician. I guess that would be the Swedish something or other party. I don't know what it is. And during riots in Switzerland, a mob recognized a local SVT politician, Thibault, in Lausanne, and nearly lynched him. And now here's the video. And keep in mind, there's sound at like the first second of the video, and then then there's no sound. The sound just drops out. It's not a problem on my end. That's what the video is. So now here is the video.
Enculé!
As I said, thank God on this one issue, I disagreed with Trump on other things, but on this issue, God bless Donald Trump, and thank God that he is the president, because this is what, and pray if you're religious, or even if you're not, just, no atheists in a foxhole. But so we could be in a foxhole if the next time a Democrat wins, because if a Democrat wins, they would need to win with the help from a lot of people who, that's the base of the party these days, who think like the idiots who let all these unlawful aliens, or even they could have been lawful. I mean, they're coming in unlawfully, and they're not being deported. But I told you about Germany, Wir schaffen das, those unlawful aliens. I mean, those aliens that came in from all these Arab countries into Germany, they came in lawfully. This idiot former chancellor welcomed them in. And so now in Switzerland, so you see that mindset, and the Democrats, large part of their base has that mindset, and that's what you could be looking at. If what's going to be interesting, Trump is putting up this wall. It should be done by the time he leaves office, if it's not done already, and we'll see what happens. So there's no way, if you just, whoever takes office after Trump, even a liberal would just have to keep doing what Trump already did. And if I could see them just throwing open, just tearing down part of the fence, and just throwing it all open and letting millions in again. In fact, as I recall, there was, well, I'll try to end on this. You know how I go on. That's why it's called Gene Rants. So I'm ranting now, and hopefully that's what you come for. But as I recall, there was a gate in an existing part of the wall, and Biden, his administration, had it welded open. So that's what you could be seeing, because you have a lot of people, and they're Democrats, who really hate this country, and they hate white people too, in Western civilization. They believe that the civilization from which these aliens that are rioting in Switzerland, that they came from, that civilization, multiculturalism, that their culture is equivalent to ours, is as good and as valid as ours. So God help us if those people get into this country, get into office again. But, okay, see, ranting. I got to throw this in, because this could be it probably will be a separate vlog. So this will be like a little teaser. But Mamdani, the the communist running for mayor in New York, a poll just came out. One of the other candidates, Andrew Cuomo, is now leading him in the polls, but there is a very big caveat. He has 52% to 40 something, I believe, for Mamdani, but that is if those are the only two candidates. If the other ones, if Adams and Sliwa drop out, then you can just be sure that Cuomo would win. So, as I said, this might be a separate vlog, but for Adams, it should be a no-brainer. I mean, he's getting like 9% or something like that. That might be enough to give Cuomo an edge. But Sliwa, he's the Republican candidate, and I'm an independent, but a conservative. If I were still living in New York, as I say, maybe ad nauseum by now, I lived in New York for 40 years. I'm in Tennessee, moved here in 2019. But if I were still back in New York, I would be voting for, I ordinarily would vote for Sliwa, but in this current situation, I would vote for Cuomo. I've done that in the past. Even though there was a Republican candidate, I voted for Ed Koch once. And because of who the other candidates were, and I knew a Democrat would be the one who would win. I think it was David Dinkins, and Dinkins won, but I voted for Koch. But the point being that Sliwa, he needs to drop out. he is not going to win, as far as I know. What would have been interesting if this poll also tested Sliwa against Cuomo, because against Mamdani, because in that case, if that showed Sliwa beating him also, then I don't know what you do, flip a coin or something, because if both of those are still in the race, then odds are that unless New York comes to its senses, Mamdani will win. So one of them has to drop out. So I guess that's it. Well, it was supposed to be a teaser. It might be the whole vlog, and I'll just repeat it separately. Anyways, that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Your comments, always welcome in the comments section below the video. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.